thanks again to our panel and also to you guys. I think in a way we sort of gave you three quite different angles tonight, and so which makes putting it together even more interesting. But I think David's first question, do you think we're winning this war with sustainability? And I don't think any hands went up, and I think that's that was the feeling that people had when they came out of Rio. And I think there are a couple of things that people said today that amplified the challenge. Mark was talking about, I think 70% of land will need to be used for livestock by 2050. Peggy was talking about how China is building cities at the size of Rome every 2 weeks. So it's a pretty challenging problem that we face. I think the question from the gentleman from Deutsche Bank was a really pertinent one, which is basically saying, should we just accept that people will demand what they want to demand, and that our job as a business is just to supply goods and meet that demand, or do we actually need to engage the consumer and try and actually change that demand? And we heard from the Carbon Disclosure Project about this huge group of prosumers, which I have to say I'm still looking for this huge group of prosumers. It seems to me statistically we seem to come back to about 5 to 15% of people who are willing to change their purchasing behaviour, or particularly to pay a premium for something. So it's a very complicated area, that one, and I think more and more the debate is moving towards, okay, well, are there technologies and business models out there that we can actually start to harness and bring to scale, as Peggy calls it? And I think we've had some quite interesting glimpses tonight. It's not just technologies. Obviously, artificial meat uses 90% less water. That's clearly a completely transformational technology, but we've just learnt it's maybe 15 to 20 years away from being in a supermarket. I thought it was very interesting that I didn't see all the hands going up, but it seemed to be more people were willing to eat artificial meat before Mark's presentation than after. Now, maybe they thought about it a bit more. Maybe I'm totally up for it. I reckon that your better meat will come out. We won't get sort of so much gristle and all the things that actually we have to eat at the moment. But or switch to potatoes. Yes. Well, then that brings us on to the obesity challenge. But the demand, it was demanding the meat. I think that's what it was. But it's also business models. So Schwapping, Peggy told us that 500,000 garments have been brought in 6 weeks, which is really remarkable, and that shows a different way of using resources. I think PepsiCo's business model, working in how they're working with their supply chain, with their farmers, in achieving 36% reduction. That that is definitely on the verge between incremental and radical. But very interestingly, it's all commercially achievable. But I think what PepsiCo is doing is, part of the 5% club. If everyone did what PepsiCo is doing, we'd be in really good shape. But it ain't happening. Just like this group of prosumers aren't emerging. And it seems that collaboration really runs across everything that we need to be doing in this space. And I think Peggy gave lots of examples. So, very interesting debate. Where do we go from here? Well, I think more and more companies are starting to think we need to engage our consumers. So I think Schwapping is part of an engagement process. M&S's beach cleanup is another example. SC Johnson have done a paper on how you actually change the way consumer thinks. It was the biggest issue coming out of the Sustainable Living Lab organised by Unilever. But it's a challenging journey, and I think we're at a very interesting point where we do have to ask ourselves, do we need to start to back the technologies that have in many ways created us to live unsustainably in the first place? And I think it's just a very good question to ask, and in many ways artificial meat caricatures that decision, because putting something that's not been naturally reared into your mouth is, for many people, a very, very complicated question. So thank you very much again to all of you guys for, I think, really good exploration of that debate tonight. So just a couple more things from me. FIFO, you'll all get an email. It really helps us. It's part of our transparency. If you just rate the evening, rate your round table, give us feedback. We do really use it. It helps us a lot. We now go into a bit of a summer break, which is delightful. Sometimes Green Mondays feels a bit like the REM song, Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. We now have a month off, and we come back in September when we're going to be looking at leadership in the 21st century. We're going to have some great leaders for you. We then go into some other great events. We've got Jochen Zeitz in November. We've got the CEO of Sky in December. So I think that's it from me. Just to thank you all again, and for those who've now signed up to roundtables, we go seamlessly into those roundtables. Thank you all very much.